I'm Jason Kelly with Bloomberg here at the Climate Summit for Local Leaders. With me, Michael Berkowitz, president of 100 Resilient Cities. Welcome, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, it's great to be here.
Big time here in Paris. You guys had a really interesting announcement this week. I want you to tell me a little bit about this pledge that you got from pretty big cities.
Yeah, so we began to think about how cities could really examine their own budgets and look for ways that they could build resilience with the money they're already spending. Cities spend a lot of money as it is. And so rather than, there's a big story about how we can get more money. And of course, more money is needed, and cities will need to get financing and funding from, both private and public sector sources. But we began to ask ourselves, how could cities really look at their budgets now and examine them for ways to build resilience? And so what we came up with was a 10% pledge. Cities would pledge the equivalent of 10% of their existing spending towards resilience. And because we define resilience in such a broad way, it's about building better infrastructure, it's about building more community cohesiveness, it's about taking care of the natural environment, it's about better emergency response and public health, all of those things. Cities had a pretty easy time doing it. Mm-hmm. But what it did allow us to do is to really connect the people who were thinking about resilience with the people who were thinking about budget, and I think that's really critical.
Yeah, and you were able to sign up some pretty big name cities, this one, Paris, Mexico City, New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken, Pittsburgh.
That's right.
What are the common threads, I guess? Because those are, obviously all big cities, but presumably have different problems and challenges and opportunities, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, cities in some ways are very different, and the local nuance is important in all cities. But you start to see some themes, and of course, so many cities struggle with water. Either too much water or too little water or both. Yeah. Our one of our cities, Amman, Jordan, they got like 44 millimeters of rain in a very short period of time. It flooded the city, and then it was gone. And it's a city that actually struggles with water shortages. Yeah. So for cities to figure out how they can better live with water, how they can better harvest the water, keep it local, those are some of the common threads that you're seeing, whether it's Mexico City or New Orleans or Paris for that matter.
So what's next for this pledge? Sign more up? Where does it go from here?
Yeah, so we got 22 cities, and we had a pretty hard deadline because we wanted to use the momentum and the energy associated with the COP. We had 22 cities for a pledge of a little bit over $6 billion US, which is quite a mobilization. But we're going to expand it, and we hope all 100 of our cities ultimately will be able to at least commit 10% of their budget to resilience. I had to tell you, when we were putting it together, one of our closest mayors, Mitch Landrieu, actually challenged us to go higher. He said, if I'm doing this right, 10% should be a baseline.
Interesting.
This should really be much, much higher than that. And I think we agree with him.
Yeah.
And that might be another direction, not just getting more cities, but actually increasing that scrutiny of spending. So it's not just 10%, but maybe 50%.
Yeah. Well, I can't let you go without asking you, as a guy who's been around this issue and a lot of these issues of resilience and climate change for some time. You worked at a very senior level in New York City around emergency preparedness, which obviously is the place, to really understand those sorts of things. Here at the COP, this is a big one, COP21. Yeah. What is your major takeaway, at least so far, a week or so in?
I've been impressed by how integrated cities are viewing their challenges. So I'll give you an example. When Paris applied to our program, they did so on the back of an environmental agenda, and this was in 2014. So they talked about urban flooding, heat island effects, and air pollution. And then, of course, 2015 came, and you had the attacks of Charlie Hebdo and, of course, the tragic events of 3 weeks ago. And all of a sudden, there's an opportunity to have a much broader discussion about what it means to be French and Parisian and how we integrate new immigrants and refugees and all of those things. And what's been interesting is seeing those, resilience thinking tries to see those two conversations linked. It's about the densification of Paris, so you don't push all the new immigrants to the suburbs and the exurbs. Mm-hmm. It's about sustainable transportation linking jobs and new housing. It's about green spaces and parks that both catch flood and rainwater, but also serve as places for people to meet and integrate. It's all of those things together. And if we can have those conversations at the same time, we can definitely make our cities stronger.
Michael Berkowitz, always great to be with you. President of 100 Resilient Cities. Great to be with you here in the Google Hangout. Thanks.
Great, thanks.